everyone, in today's video I'm going to be painting the scene of a deer in a forest using gouache paints in my watercolor sketchbook. And while I'll be painting, I'll be chatting to you about my process and my creative mindset that I have when I begin a painting like this. Now remember, a painting like this has a lot of different elements and components to it. So we have the focal point, which is the deer, and then we have the background and the other elements of the environment that the deer is in. So we're going to have the river, we're going to have the trees in the closer foreground, and then further in the background the receding trees in the distance. We're going to have those, we're going to have the foliage in the foreground, we're going to have the rocks. So all of these are the different elements that are in a piece like this. So going in, first I start off with my planning. So planning it is to plan the composition. So I have thumbnail sketches or rough sketches in my planning sketchbook where I just plan all the different ideas that I have, where I want the deer to be positioned, because my focal point is going to be the deer. But I have all these other elements like the river that is also going to be part of this piece. So I need to incorporate all of that when I am planning my painting or my sketch for the painting. So once I have decided on a sketch that works, I do the entire sketch with graphite into my sketchbook, and then I am ready to start with color. Now when it comes to color, I then need to think about the color palette I'm going to use for this piece. What kind of emotion I want to convey or environment do I want to convey? Do I want it to be a cool night scene? Do I want it to be a warm day scene? What kind of colors do I think I'm going to be using? So if I decide to use more warmer tones, that will set a different tone for the piece, and if I decide to use cooler tones, that's going to set a different feel for the scene. So I decided to go ahead with warmer tones because I wanted to create this brightness and this light and just create a nice bright light scene that's vibrant and saturated. So I went in with the background and I started painting in the background with a yellow to yellow green, and then I worked my way forward and just started adding some of the background further in the background trees to create depth, because a piece like this does require you to create that depth with the way that you are painting in all the different elements as you're bringing them in. Also, I started painting in the trees, the barks, and the foliage. Once again, I kept the foliage to be to mid-tone greens to very light yellow greens, but then I also added some cooler greens for the shadows, because obviously I want to make it look more three-dimensional. The same goes for the trees. I added different more darker elements, but then I added hints of the lighter colors to the barks, just so that you can see that there is a light coming onto the sides of the trees. And then I also added in some details on the deer. Now the deer, I've got the antlers, and I've also included some highlights on the antlers. And then I also have the deer, which I kept it to a neutral mid-brown tone, not too dark, although I do have all the shadows going really dark. That really makes the deer look three-dimensional and makes it look realistic. And I wanted the deer also to fit into the scene. So when I'm thinking about a painting like this, I want to find the best composition, the best colors that's going to represent the tone for the scene, because I want the scene to look more like a scene straight out of a storybook. So I work slowly with the background and the foreground, and I work with the different colors. I add the shadows, I add the highlights, but I keep my tones to that warm tone because I don't want anything to be too cool, because it will be in high contrast. That's why when I drew or painted the river in, I didn't go with a very bright blue or a very deep blue, because that would really take the attention away from my focal point. My focal point is the deer, which is my main focal point, but I also want the viewer's eye to travel down the river to the background where the trees are in the distance, and also to the trees behind the deer and the foliage around the deer. So to keep the river at a very subtle neutral blue allows me to have that kind of effect, so that the viewer views all the different elements and I lead the viewer's eyes through the piece, which creates the depth. Remember, when you are painting animals in your scenes, be sure to get the anatomy correct. So focus on the skeletal structure of the animal, the muscular structure of the animal, and then that will help you to determine the shadow areas and the highlighted areas, and also the way the body should be positioned, the proportions. Make sure to get the proportions as accurate as possible, because that will also impact on what the final result of the piece will be. Also, when you're creating a painting like this in relation to a background, where the background creates a depth in the background, try to remember to position the animal in a place where they're not right in the center. try to keep them off center. That really creates more interest in the piece than having the animal straight in the center, although there's nothing wrong with that. But in a scene like this where there's a river and where there's land and there's trees, try to keep the deer to the side, which leads the viewer down the river towards the background as they view the painting. And also it creates more interest in the piece and makes it look a bit more interesting by having the deer not in the center and off center. And although the deer is still the focal point, but viewers' eyes still can view all the other elements that are in this painting. For example, the trees and the foliage around. Now I am going to come in at the end of the video, towards the end of the video, and I'm going to be basically adding a bit of a yellow-green tone to the background, because I think it's looking a bit too washed out. So I wanted to make it look a bit more vibrant. So I am going to go through and add more colors to the background to really make it stand out. And I'm also going to be using a white jelly roll just to add some highlights to the piece and just let everything blend together and look more cohesive. Now another thing to remember is that when you are painting in your scene and all the different elements like the rocks, try to keep all the colors that you're using similar, or keep them in the same color range, like the warm tones or cool tones, because if you jump to too many colors and you incorporate too many colors, the piece will become too busy and the viewer's eye will be going all over the place and it just makes the scene look too busy. So try to limit the amount of elements you put in, and if it is an elements that you have a lot of foliage, a lot of trees, plants, try to keep those all in similar colors or color choices, so that you know that the colors will all go together and the entire piece will be one piece and it won't look like completely different pieces. And also try to focus on your focal point and on the area you want the viewer's eye to go to. And like with the water, I kept it very subtle. I didn't go very bright or dark because I don't want it to overtake the attention from the deer and the trees and in going into the background. So this is where I decided, after removing the washi tape, I looked at my piece and I was just really trying to see what else I can change, and I decided to add a bit more of a brighter yellow green to the background. That will just help to make the piece look a bit more saturated, because that color was looking a bit washed out. And that's very important for you to go back and look at your piece even when you complete with it and just see if there's any little adjustments or things you need to add to the piece to really make it stand out. So there I'm adding my final details to the piece. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you have, don't forget to like and share. It really helps the channel out. Please leave your comments down below in the comment section, and if you would like to see other videos like this and any other art videos that I put up on my channel, then you could consider subscribing. Till the next one, bye.